About 100,000 years ago, fire became man's servant. The muscles of animals were harnessed around 5000 BC. Sailing ships, coal furnaces, and wheels turned by wind and water were commonplace in ancient times. But it was only about 1700 AD that the steam engine ushered in the Industrial Revolution. And electricity began to light the world just 100 years ago. America's economic growth and way of life were built in great measure on an abundant, inexpensive, and seemingly endless supply of domestic energy. Then, after World War II, a fateful change. The United States began to import more and more of the energy supplies needed to move, work, and live. The demand grows, and looking ahead, consumption in the next quarter century is expected to equal that of the last 200 years. Today, America relies on 5 primary energy sources. Oil, the backbone of America's economy, provides almost 1/2. Natural gas produces around 1/3. Coal, which supplied almost half a generation ago, is down to 18%. Water power accounts for roughly 5%. And nuclear power plants generate about 3%. 1973 dramatized U.S. dependence on foreign oil. The Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries imposed its boycott and within a year raised prices more than 300%. After the embargo ended, the United States still found itself importing more and more OPEC oil at higher and higher prices. Then came the winter of '77. It underscored in another way the growing energy shortage in America, this time natural gas. Schools were shut, factories closed, and a natural gas emergency proclaimed. The bitter winter focused new interest on energy conservation, including the weatherproofing of residential buildings. Installing 6 inches of home insulation, according to government studies, could reduce heat loss by 25%. Smaller, lighter cars, improved engine designs, lower speed limits are other energy savers. But while conservation can help, America must have a comprehensive energy policy. The cornerstone of any long-range program is coal, the nation's most abundant energy resource. America's unmined coal is said to have an energy potential greater than all of the free world's known oil reserves. But using more coal presents financial and environmental problems. Deep mines are expensive, skilled workers may be hard to find, and burning coal without compromising environmental standards is a very real challenge. Strip mining is practical and economical. The so-called overburden, made up of clay, limestone, and shale, must first be removed to reach the coal. Often blasting is used. Then a giant shovel scoops up several tons of coal at a time. But strip mining scars the countryside, and production costs must include restoration of the land. Also, transporting coal great distances will require thousands of miles of railroad tracks and tens of thousands of railroad cars. Converting coal into liquid and gaseous fuels could help make this energy asset even more valuable. And so research is underway on a whole range of synthetic fuels, from oil for industrial use to gas for private homes. King coal holds the promise of being America's single most important energy resource from now until far beyond the year 2000. In the western United States, mountains of shale contain hundreds of millions of gallons of oil. One way of extraction is to mine the shale by conventional methods. But such operations require great quantities of scarce water and involve disposal of enormous amounts of waste shale. Still, shale is believed to be the largest potential source of recoverable oil in the world. Recently, a new below-ground method has been tested to tap these extensive oil deposits with a minimum environmental impact. A single underground chamber as high as a 25-story building has produced 30,000 barrels of shale oil, and a government report estimates that oil extracted from shale in this way could be competitive in price with imported oil. America's outer continental shelf may contain billions of barrels of oil and trillions of cubic feet of natural gas, but it remains to be found. And as production moves beyond the horizon, oil men must develop new methods of protecting the environment while drilling in ever deeper waters. Alaska, one of the richest oil regions in the world, will help to extend America's petroleum reserves. Eventually, more than 2 million barrels of oil a day will flow south. But the United States still will have to import foreign oil and natural gas. A whole new technology is being developed to ship the natural gas, which becomes a liquid and shrinks more than 600 times when it is super chilled to minus 260 degrees Fahrenheit. The liquid natural gas, or LNG, can then be transported in specially built tankers. These giant seagoing vacuum bottles are the length of 3 football fields and cost up to $150 million each. Meantime, nuclear power plants are expected to supply more and more of America's electricity. 1 pound of nuclear fuel is the equivalent of 3,000 tons of coal. And although more expensive to build than generating stations using fossil fuels, nuclear plants produce electricity more economically. In the future, as in the past, there must be special safeguards for workers, the public, and the environment. Nuclear research also has been carried out on the fast breeder reactor, which converts uranium into plutonium, itself a reactor fuel. The Russians, British, and French already have fast breeders in operation. But concern that power plant plutonium might be used for nuclear weapons has raised questions about the role of the breeder reactor in America's energy future. Geothermal energy, the heat inside the Earth's crust, is a limited source of power. The geysers in California is the only commercially operated geothermal field in America. Underground steam is tapped and piped to turbines to generate power. The geysers provides enough electricity to serve a city of 700,000 people. Windmills, which have ground grain and pumped water for thousands of years, are being studied also as an alternate source of energy. A variety of designs at different heights have been tested. But many problems remain unresolved. How to store energy when the wind is not blowing, and which shapes are the most efficient in harnessing the wind. At the mouth of the Rance River in France, where tides rise and fall more than 30 feet, the world's largest tidal power plant now is in operation. In a dam stretching across the river, reversible turbines capture the power of the incoming and outgoing tides. Few such sites are available in America, and it has been estimated that if we built a low dike around our entire coastline and used it to produce tidal power, we would generate only enough electricity for a city the size of Boston. The sun is a clean, abundant source of energy, and in recent years, a number of demonstration solar homes have been built. Most use solar collector panels on the roof. Water circulates through these panels and is heated by the sun's rays. Pumped to the building's heating and cooling systems, the hot water exchanges its energy or is stored for use when the sun doesn't shine. The owner of this house says room temperatures can be set and maintained within a degree in summer and winter. At the Sandia Laboratories in New Mexico, research is converting solar energy directly into electricity by using transistor-like devices called photovoltaic cells. All that is required is to place the cells in direct sunlight and connect the electric wiring. But the cost of solar cells is prohibitive. Moreover, a reliable, low-cost method must be found to store the electricity when the sun is not shining. A more ambitious solar research project is a power tower surrounded by thousands of mirrors. The mirrors will focus and reflect the sun's rays onto a boiler mounted atop a tower 20 stories high. When construction is finished and the boiler is in place, the reflected sunlight will heat the fluid in the boiler to 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit, producing enough thermal energy to serve a community of 1,500 people. Computers will program the mirrors to track the sun during the day, making certain minute by minute that each one is focused on target. In spite of optimism about solar energy, government studies indicate that only about 5 to 7% of the nation's energy will come from solar power by the year 2000. To imitate the enormous energy of the sun is the challenge of fusion research. This is perhaps man's most ambitious undertaking as he seeks to achieve the 100 million degree heat of distant stars and galaxies. Here is a micro drop of fuel used in a laser fusion reactor. It's about the size of the ball in the tip of an ordinary ballpoint pen. And it weighs less than a grain of salt. A frozen pellet of this fuel will be bombarded by laser pulses, 1/billionth of a second long, as researchers try to create short-lived miniature stars. In theory, the pellet will be heated to temperatures like those of the sun and eventually release a tremendous amount of energy. The oceans of the Earth contain an almost unlimited supply of this fusion fuel, a hydrogen isotope called deuterium. In addition to laser research, a second method of achieving fusion, called magnetic confinement, is being researched. Here, scientists are attempting to heat and fuse atomic particles in a gigantic magnetic bottle in order to release vast amounts of controlled energy. Magnetic confinement, or laser fusion, eventually may solve most of America's energy problems, but the key words are if and when. For in the year 2000, Americans may need double the electricity produced today. Government officials have pointed out that our economic growth and the quality of our life will depend more and more upon an electric economy. And so, research and development focus on the challenge of generating more electricity. A newly reclaimed source, garbage, is being used experimentally as a supplemental fuel in generating electrical power. The garbage has been burned with coal at a savings in coal of 10%. Other supplemental fuels, such as wood chips, also are being tested in experimental furnaces. At United Technologies Corporation, still another future energy source, a battery-like device that converts fossil fuels and air into electrical energy cleanly and quietly. Stacks of these fuel cells located where power is needed can generate electricity for homes, factories, and communities without transmission lines. In addition to electricity, fuel cells produce useful heat as a byproduct and deliver energy more efficiently than conventional generating systems. Large-scale commercial operations of fuel cell power plants are being planned for the 1980s. For example, a plant capable of serving 20,000 people will stand only 18 feet high and cover less than half an acre of ground. Research goes forward, meanwhile, on new, clean, and efficient automotive power systems, including electric batteries and non-polluting and synthetic fuels. Alternate systems must be found if Americans are to get from place to place tomorrow with the same ease that we travel today. For automobiles consume nearly 30% of the nation's petroleum, and that figure has risen every year. An energy era is ending. A new age is on its way. Meanwhile, shrinking supplies of oil and natural gas mandate a commitment by industries and individuals to conserve energy. Reducing dependence on foreign sources will require changes and sacrifices in the traditional American way of life. Automobile efficiency must be increased and gasoline consumption cut. Government studies indicate that lower speed limits could save an estimated 200,000 barrels of oil a day. The electrified BART system in San Francisco illustrates how public transportation can help big cities to curb air pollution and save energy. Riding mass transit systems instead of using private cars could save millions of gallons of gasoline a year. Petroleum engineers are working hard to increase production, offshore and on land. For if we extend the life of these reserves, we may have the time needed to develop new energy sources. Additional oil can be recovered from old wells, and while the process is expensive, it still may be worthwhile because of the higher and higher cost of foreign oil. More and more coal will be mined as the United States seeks to make maximum use of its richest energy resource. Wherever feasible, coal will replace oil and natural gas in factories and power plants. Restoration can and is being done in many areas where strip mining is carried on. Trees are planted, land reclaimed. This too is an added cost, but it is the price Americans will pay as they balance the needs of an industrial society against the preservation of clean air, clean water, and the historic natural beauty of our country. In this transitional time, we must make personal sacrifices, practice conservation, develop and stretch our remaining supplies of energy, and use more coal and nuclear power. For the 21st century, alternate energy sources must be developed if industry is to move forward, jobs are to be created, and America is to continue to grow economically. Historically, nature's resources have dictated man's consumption of energy. Today, man must determine how these resources will be used. The decisions made, the actions taken, will affect the nature and quality of life in the United States in the year 2000 and in the decades, generations, and centuries beyond.